a 147-pounder moving up to the 160 region, if you will. We're talking about a fight that we've been dreaming about for quite some time. We're talking about a fight that is apparently close to being officially announced, close to being finalized. We're all waiting on the announcement. We're talking about bad blood. We're talking about a family history and rivalry coming to fruition, 3 years or so in the making. And we could talk about Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. We could talk about their fathers fighting way back in the day. We could talk about what it means. You can listen to me, a British boxing historian, tell you all about how big of a deal all of this is. Or we could talk to one half of this main event, Mr. Conor Benn, who is kind enough to be joining us right now live from the UK, just like Ade is right now as well. Conor, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate this. Thanks for joining the show.
My pleasure, mate. Pleasure to be on.
It's great to have you. I know it's late over there, so especially appreciate your time. And so can we not beat around the bush here? We've seen the photos, we've seen the tweets, but we haven't received the big announcement just yet. At least from your perspective, at least from your end, is everything signed, sealed, and delivered?
I know I'm ready to go. I know I've signed. So for me, it's just a matter of date. It's a matter of venue. But I know from my end, the fight's been agreed and signed.
Okay. And I don't want to put you on the spot in terms of, putting the cart before the horse, spoiling any announcements. We've heard about April. We heard about Hotspur. All that stuff is out there. I don't want it to come out of your mouth out of respect for you and the relationship that you have with everyone putting this card together. But can I ask you this, as far as the particulars are concerned? This was a huge, a huge debate that played out in the public sphere. A, the breakdown, the purse breakdown, and B, the weight and rehydration clause. What can you tell us, Conor, about all of this? What did we agree on as far as the purse breakdown and the rehydration clause?
First off, I'm a fighter, so I've agreed to absolutely anything and everything. The 60, 40, 55, 45, however you want to carve it up. Just get me in the ring with him. So that was taken care of by my team. And as for the weight, I'm coming up 2 weight divisions to fight this man. I fight at 147. I'm a 147 fighter. So me coming up to his weight division, we've only stuck within the region of the IBF rules, which is championship weight, 160, and the rehydration in which they do in championship bouts, which is 10 pounds. I think that's extremely fair. I think that's more than fair.
How close, Conor, were we to not get in the fight with that rehydration cap? Like, did Chris Eubank Jr.'s team try and push back on it? Because I saw you and Chris go back and forth on Twitter a couple of days ago about the rehydration. Was it close to not happening because of that, or was Chris's team okay and fair and like, okay, let's do this?
It was what was agreed previously. So I don't know why. Listen, his antics. You know what game he's playing. He's playing that card. Personally, I think he's coming up with all these excuses as to why he's going to get smashed to pieces. He's covering his own arse. The reality is it's IBF championship rules. I'm coming up 2 weight divisions. I don't understand why everybody's talking about the rehydration clause, which is within the 10-pound region of championship weight for the IBF, when I'm jumping up 2 weight divisions. Do you want to tell me the last person that's done that?
Yeah, I mean,
what time frame? When was the last person that done that?
Top of my head, Jamel Charlo Canelo. Top of my head. Could be wrong, top of my head. But look, the fight's done. And well, we hope it's done. Fingers crossed, obviously, as Ariel said, no announcement yet, but fingers crossed we get an announcement very, very soon. How serious was the Barrios conversations on your side? Like, was there a stage where if this fight doesn't get made now, I'm walking away and I'm going to fight Mario Barrios for the WBC title?
Yeah, of course. Listen, after I've been through for the past 2.5 years, for me to come back to British soil, my home, and win the WBC world title in where I had my debut, for me, that's what dreams are made of. And, what a story for me to come back off a 2.5 year fight in itself to then fight for the WBC world title and winning it, because no doubt I believe I would have stopped Barrios. So for me it was okay, no problem, give me Barrios. I know everybody wants this fight. I know the supporters want this fight, and I felt like I really wanted to give the supporters the Eubank fight, but the Barrios was serious. It was a serious fight that I wanted for sure.
As we're looking at you right now, Connor, and as I'm listening to you, and I see the intensity, and I see how
Yeah.
fired up you are, and it's 10:30 in the evening over there. If you are back home in the UK, I'm wondering, when this was first announced, and you guys were so close to fight back in 2022, a lot of the hoopla, the buzz, the hype was surrounded around your father's story. Now this feels different, right? So much has been said, so much has been done. We've seen you guys go face to face, toe to toe. Can you expand on that? What's the difference this time around as far as the buildup is concerned, as opposed to back in October of 2022, when it just felt like, okay, it's the kids of two very famous fighters who once had a rivalry, they're going to be fighting. Now this feels completely different. Am I wrong?
Yeah, for me, definitely, this is way more personal. It was more commercial before. I mean, it's a massive commercial fight, but it's way more personal. I don't think I've ever felt hatred towards an opponent before. I don't think I've ever wanted to spitefully knock somebody out before. I know people beg to differ with my fighting style, but the reality is I've been through a lot, and I was going through a lot at the time. So for him to just then carry on the way he did, I took it personally, and I still take it very personally, So, to being on the brink of suicide, to coming through, to, having him come out with the remarks he was coming out with, which were lies, all of it's lies. Yeah, I take that very personally, and for me, I'm still here standing, living and breathing, feeling stronger than ever. So,
Mhm.
Without a doubt, I'm coming for his head.
You have brought us into the dark period. We've talked about it, how low you were, and when you speak to Chris about it, he's somewhat dismissive of it. He's kind of saying, "I don't really buy any of this." He thinks it's just kind of a song and dance. Is that what bothers you the most? That you are speaking about life and death, not boxing. You're speaking about how dark it was for you, how dangerous it was for you.
Listen, Ariel. Who cares what he says? He's an idiot. Do you know what I mean? He's an idiot who falls out of everybody over money. So yeah, I ain't gonna listen to what he said. Even his dad can't stand him. So he can talk all what he wants. Do you know, my principles and morals are stay aligned. And ultimately it don't really matter what he thinks or what he says or what he does, because he's gonna feel the pain come fight night.
Connor, where do you think you are in terms of your relationship with British fight fans? I think, as you know, some have backed you, right? Every time you see them out personally, they back you. That there's always a want for a photo. Some online have been quite tough on you. You haven't fought back home by the time this fight rolls around for well over 2 years. Where do you think that relationship is now?
Yeah, listen, it painted my heart black, no doubt. But you go through things in life, and that's neither here nor there. Some more public than others, and some go through greater adversities than others. The reality is, I'm still here, still fighting. Did it paint my heart black? Yes, it did. Did it give me thick skin? Yes, it did. Did it give me resilience? Yes, it did. Did it give me strength? Yes, it did. Did it hurt? Yes, it did. But the reality is, social media really is the minority.
Yeah.
And all these former fighters, former GB fighters who weren't successful as pros, or former fighters that had a less, unfortunate career, or pundits who never been in the ring. The reality is, I look in the mirror, I look at my life, I look around me. I would still rather be me than them any day of the week, twice on Sundays, because my integrity holds more weight than their character or their title. That's the reality. So for me, I look around me, I'm blessed. Do you know what I mean? I fought the case 3 times. I won the case 3 times. Do you know what I mean? I was resilient and I was strong in standing for what I believed in. And that's it, period. Forget what you say. You ain't been in my shoes. You ain't seen this. You ain't done that. There will always be something. People will always find an excuse for my success because I'm the Nepo kid. I never went that GB route. When some of these GB fighters ain't no good, they ain't good pros. Do you know what I mean? So, and that's the reality. I've turned over, and people go, the Nepo kid, the kid who had all the advantages in the world. They'll always find an excuse for my success, when the reality is, I've done this all myself, and it's just hard work.
The fight this time round is so different, I think, from when it was first made. When it was first made, obviously, look, you hadn't had those couple of fights at 154 pounds. We hadn't seen a bigger, stronger version of you. And since then, Chris Eubank Jr. has been stopped by Liam Smith. So both of you have been through quite a lot, I think, whether it be out the ring or inside the ring. Where do you see yourself now as a fighter? And where do you see Chris as a fighter now? You were ringside for his last fight. You jumped in the ring as well for his last fight. Where do you see both of you now, 2.5 years on from when the first fight was supposed to take place?
Well, personally, I still think he's an idiot. So that ain't changed. Two, he is what he is. But I believe anything I do just trumps him. I don't even think the weights, even me jumping up 2 weight divisions, I don't feel like that's going to be an issue for me whatsoever. That would be the only thing that you would think, oh, he's coming up 2 weight divisions. You know, I spar like heavyweights, I spar super middles, I spar middles all the time. You know, so for me, it's not concerned at all. I'm feeling dangerous. I'm feeling explosive. I'm feeling like I got that buzz back. You know, my last 2 fights in America were of a person who was heartbroken, lost, struggling, not knowing if I was fighting or not, feeling like I'm on the run from my own people. You know, yeah, it was a mess. You know, the fights where the camps were hard to get through, not knowing if I was actually fighting or they were going to try and put a block in the way. It was just a mess. So for me to manage all that as well as fight and not being motivated, I wasn't motivated at all. I mean, yeah, it was hard. So for me, I feel like I've got that buzz back and love back for fighting now that I can.
Conor, you mentioned Chris's relationship with his father, and obviously a big part of this initially was about your fathers and their history. Luckily for you, you have a good relationship with your father, and I think we all would love to see Chris and his father repair their relationship so that he could be a part of the promotion as well. Would you be disappointed if Chris Sr. isn't a part of this promotion? And how much will your father be involved as well? Like on the dais, will your father be up there, which will then only kind of enforce the point that his father isn't there if it comes down to that?
Listen, their relationship ain't my concern. The reality is you want every father and son to get on. That's like the ultimate, especially when they're in the public eye massively. You know, for me, my dad is my hero. He's my legend. I mean, I love my dad so much, man. You know, for me, he's like, I just got the phone with him now about when he's coming over. He's going, oh, can I come over then, son? I'm like, Dad, you know, I need you from start to finish. But no doubt my dad will be with me in my camp. You know, I feel like as I've got older, I see so many similarities in my dad, similarities that I didn't understand maybe growing up. And I think as I've got older, I've sort of just admired a man, you know, and you know, no doubt, you know, Chris and his dad have what they have. At the end of the day, bottom line, with or without boxing, that's still my dad. You know, let alone us being who we are because of our dads. You can't say this fight is what it is without our dads. Period. I would not be the man I am now and the fighter I am and who I am as a man if it wasn't for my dad. You know, this is generational. This is generational wealth. You know, when I mean generational wealth, I don't mean financially. I mean in the upbringing, in the morals, in the foundations, in the principles they install in you from a young kid. That's generational wealth. And the same for my son. So, you know, for me, I tell my dad every single day, Dad, I'm so grateful. You know, I wake up in this house because of you. You know, my son is blessed because of you. You know, you laid the foundation for me. So, yeah, my dad's my hero. And, you know, I pray my son loves me as much as I love my dad one day.
Much respect. I love to hear that. I'm wondering, you know, obviously, when they were rivals a little bit before your time, but I'm wondering if you have any early memories of finding out who Chris Eubank was and the history with your father. Like, do you remember being 6, 7 years old and watching with your dad or learning about him or him telling you about him? Do you have any sort of early memories of the Eubanks, if you will?
No, not at all. I mean, I'd probably say probably from the age of 14 when my dad took me on his first tour and my dad was just, yeah, he didn't say the nicest things about him. But yeah, it ain't for show. You know, it's genuinely a family feud for sure, and it's just mental because the fathers and sons are, you know, the apple don't fall far from the tree. So yeah, no, I can't recall a date, but I know just that it's genuine from my dad. You know, polar opposites in personality.
Yeah, I grew up watching that rivalry. I remember the second fight vividly. The first one, not so much, but the second one I remember at Old Trafford vividly, like it was yesterday. And I never ever thought that Nigel and your dad and Chris Senior would ever sort of get on, would ever talk. And eventually they did. Eventually they started doing tours and talking and sitting down and having conversations. I
Did you
look at
say
you and
how those
Chris.
talks went, Addy?
Yeah, I did actually. They didn't go very well sometimes.
No, they didn't.
They didn't go very well. But I do look at you and Chris, and I think Eddie said this the other day. Apart from AJ Fury, it's the biggest fight that can be made in Britain this year, and I echo that. It is. It clearly is. Don't you ever think that there will be some sort of, I don't know, a handshake after, or even a handshake before, because you're both putting on what will be the biggest show in Britain. You're both making lots of money, and you both almost need each other as well. You both need to be dance partners for each other.
Yeah, listen, we'll see how I feel after the fight. We'll see how I feel after the fight. Ultimately, I'm not going to do anything I've got to do out of feeling pressure from the public to do what I feel like's the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I'll see how I feel. Ultimately, this is personal, and if I wasn't here today, would I get an apology?
No.
Well, exactly. So why am I going to be apologetic for when I render him unconscious?
How many rounds do you expect this to go, Conor?
I'll come out very sharpish off the traps. I just can't see it going past 4 or 5. You got to remember my last 2 performances. You got to look at them. You've got to look at fractions of a man who didn't know if he was coming or going, who didn't know if he was going to be able to fight or not, didn't feel right fighting abroad under the circumstances, were meaningless fights. Fighters I know I can beat. Even on the back of my fight with Rodolfo Roscoe, I smashed Eubank to pieces in 4 rounds. Even off the back of that fight. You could say, just not caring the world, no adrenaline, no. And it's a dangerous place to be when you're going to walk into the arena without no adrenaline, no. It's like I know I'm going to beat him, So that was very concerning for me, and it made me question my love for the sport. It made me question if I wanted to fight anymore, because how am I not getting a buzz out of this? How am I not getting a high? How am I not getting that adrenaline rush of excitement going into war? Why am I not getting that? And with everything going on, of course it's understandable. And my love got taken away from it a little bit at the time. Even on them performances, I smashed Eubank to pieces. So let alone me feeling up for it and, extremely motivated to have this one down in the history books.
Conor, how much have you missed all of this? Right. I mean, this is big time boxing at its biggest, right? Again, we're here in Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, could be 60 or 1,000. Again, you've had those fights in America, but small fry compared to this, right? I mean, you're going to be doing the media rounds. You're going to be doing the face-offs. It's going to be cameras in your face. I feel like you're one of the best speakers when it does get to that stage. Not many people can handle that situation like you. You must have missed all of this, and it's coming round again now.
I missed everybody. I missed everything. It was my life. It was what I began to only know. It was my whole world. Do you understand? So even the little things, talking to the guy who stacks the rings, talking to the guy who announces me coming into the fight, talking to the guy who tells me when to go. So all of them people, I miss, because it's what I do. It's what I love to do. So when I lost it, I didn't know how to. It was hard. It was a hard one, But I've missed it so much, and I'm excited to get back on British soil, and more importantly, give the sports the fight they want. Whether that's me jumping up 2 weight divisions, whether that's me, I'm just coming in there to do a job on him and, remind the British supporters why I'm one of the most dangerous fighters in the country currently. That's me going up to 160, rendering him unconscious, drop back down to 147, fight for the world title, and then fight Eubank again before the year's out.
Oh, wow. And is that a part of the contract? Is there a rematch clause?
I'm not sure. I've left that to the legal team.
Okay.
But as far as I'm aware, as far as I'm aware, he's not going to want a rematch anyway.
Fair enough. Fair enough. Could I ask, obviously very personal, and I always hear from fighters, you don't want to fight with emotion, right? You don't want to fight angry. You don't want to fight like you want to kill your opponent. You have to be measured. You have to be calm. Any concern on your end, you will be in the ring with him, and that emotion, everything you've been through over the last couple of years will take over, and you won't fight a measured fight.
No, I always go in there to kill him. You know, like, yeah, you know, people go like strictly business. You know, if you're trying to take food out of my kid's mouth and you're trying to crush my dream, how can you say that's not personal? I'm coming for your head. It's your kids, it ain't mine. I promise you that now. It's your kids, it ain't mine.
God.
And that's why, for me, I sit there and I go, yeah, if this was, you know, you're talking thousands of years ago, you're talking life and death. It's modern day gladiators, you know. So for me, when it comes down to it, I'm coming in there to kill. Because if it ain't you, it's me. And I can promise you now, it ain't me. And that's my mindset. So irrelevant of people that, you know, may think this fight, oh, you know, your emotions. I'm an emotional guy. You know, 1 minute I'm up here, 1 minute I'm down here. You know, so, you know, no doubt come fight night, I'll be raging.
You're giving us chills here. This is incredible stuff. What a story! What a backstory! And so happy that it has appeared to have gone over the line. One last thing before we let you go, Conor, and thank you again for this tremendous stuff. When the fight appeared to have been finalized, Turki Al-Sheikh posted a video from back in 1990 on British television. Your father and Chris Sr. signing the contract on British television. It seems as though you guys have already signed your contract, so we won't get a recreation of that scene. But I'd love to, perhaps for our younger audience, play that clip right now and get your reaction to it, if I can.
Okay.
In your face, I have nothing to say to Nigel. I find the man intolerable in that he's so wild. I have no time for such people. He has no class as far as I see it. About Nigel Benn, I would say this. The man is a powerful puncher, a very powerful puncher. For this, I would like his autograph, because after I've finished with him, he isn't going to be anybody.
I think the public is demanding this. You know, I walk down the street, people say, hey, give this boy a hiding.
Well, let's make sure the fight takes place by signing the contract right now.
Christopher?
I have to say, there seems an element of genuine hate between these two, Ambrose.
For sure.
I don't hate the man. I just want his WBO title. I pray that I have enough dignity not to hate the man.
All right, gentlemen, you both signed the contract.
I personally do hate him. I personally do hate him.
Your answer just before this reminded me of that. I'm like, yeah, you don't want to be personal. You don't want to make it personal. You don't want to emotion. No, I want to kill the guy. You're exactly like your old man.
You know what? That's funny, because do you see what I mean? So there's just so many similarities there. It ain't forced. It's just who I am. And, you know, the apple don't fall far from the tree. You know, listen, I look up to my dad like he's my idol. He is my idol. He's my everything. So I want to be like him. I don't mind being in his shadow. You know, the love I have for him is phenomenal. But it's just funny when you watch things and you see so many similarities. But this fight wouldn't have happened without, you know, His Excellency making a fight, man. So I'm just so glad that, you know, he's here and he's changed the game, because ultimately Eubank wouldn't have taken the fight, providing he didn't make the fight happen. You got to remember, he thinks he's the A-side against Canelo and Golovkin. So you boys just have to sit there and go, who's actually the one who's been hard work here?
Well, we are delighted. It is a done deal, and we can't wait for the official announcement. And dare I say, can't wait for all the media, all the press conferences, all the face-offs, everything that is going to come with this mega fight, hopefully in just a few months' time. Conor, thank you so much. Good luck to you in training.
Appreciate it, Conor. Thanks, brother.
Appreciate it, and hopefully we get to talk to you soon before the fight as well.
Definitely. Thank you, boys.
All right, there he is.
Cheers, Conor. Take care, bro.
The great Conor Benn.